right now, you've watched plenty. There have just been insane matches this round.
Yeah, it really speaks to just the quality and the level of skill that's going on here in this community. All right, we're underway now.
Good news is Uncle guarantees this is sub 2, so.
Good. So first chest is a big 20, nothing too exciting.
Definitely not the worst thing that can be in Link's chest. A few pieces of rupees going to be useful to start out. We see a map check quickly from thalane there. 2 map checks, in fact. We got the red pendant over at Eastern. It looked like regular crystals at Desert and Hera.
That is what I saw, yeah. Ooh, the bow.
All right, we're going to be practicing our archery here in the escape. Bow is a pretty quick item for the escape, honestly, and it lets you farm a good number of enemies. So they should be getting bomb drops without the worst of RNG here. And speaking of bomb drops,
how about one right off the
bat?
Both
players with the best bomb drop with the first enemy they kill. 8 bombs. They're just going to fly through the rest of the escape at this point.
Yeah, we're definitely going to see some really low escape times here.
That is really the best feeling, getting those bombs, so many bombs up front. You know you're set for the escape, you know you're set for basically everything else you're going to do in Sphere 1 that needs bombs. And you've got a weapon to let you do some of the other things that you need. For example, mini Moldorm Cave with bow, no problem. So really kind of just sit back, relax. If you're the runners at this point, you know you've got it kind of on autopilot for the next 10 or so minutes till you have to start making some decisions.
Yeah, most definitely. So as our runners make their way through the first part of the escape sequence, just a quick shout out to our tracker, Yoinker's wife, pushing those buttons behind the scenes. Thank you so much for that.
One disappointing thing about the bow in the escape is it's probably got the least amount of swag strats of all of the starting items. Not really anything you can do except shoot the arrows straight at the enemies here. With some of the items you get, some of the canes and the bombs, you might see some players bust out some really cool swag strats that maybe they've been practicing to get them through these rooms faster, but kind of just brute force with the bow.
Yeah, really, you can't even pull any like real long distance from downtown kind of shots off at all.
They'll have to save the swag for later. And they do get a green bottle here from Zelda's chest. Another very nice item to have early. Just if you have some magic items, there can actually be spots that you just want to have a little bit of magic even to start off. And I actually noticed thalane did not pick up the small magics that are south of the uncle there. Every once in a while, that can come into play if, say, you're trying to check the magic bat when you're in Kakariko and you have no magic. It probably won't come into play, but maybe something to keep an eye on here.
That's true. And it also gives us a look at the sick kid first pass through Kakariko, which is always nice.
Yeah, one of those 2 items you really want before Kakariko, the bottle and the flute. If you can just knock out all of Kakariko checks in one shot, it's always a nice feeling. So we got both players coming up here on the back of the escape. Really, again, with those bombs and even a decent number of rupees, they're not going to be killing anything they don't have to. They're just going to be going straight to the back to grab the 3 items. Well, I guess 4 items since they've already got the small key here.
Yep. We still have the map outstanding, yeah?
I do believe they have not picked up the map yet. So there are 5 chests remaining, and 4 of them are going to have items for us. Oh, we've got our first fetch quest as we pick up the mushroom here in the dark chest of the escape.
Anytime I pick up the mushroom fairly early in a run, I'm very tempted to turn it in as soon as I possibly can. I don't know. I got this feeling like it's always going to have something.
Different players have different strategies when it comes to the mushroom, since the popularization of that fake powder glitch, which requires the mushroom, came into the mainstream. But like you said, getting that early, I don't know how much you can really afford to kind of sit on it when it might be progression very early on too.
Yeah, if you can fit it into your routing, then great, I guess, and maybe set up a hard or a reset on that.
So nothing here in the back of the escape except heart piece and some more rupees. You see both players with plenty of bombs. They're going to save a little bit of extra time going through the top side here at the cost of one extra bomb. And they'll be finishing up well under the 6-minute escape here.
Yep, sub-6. So for Aim in chat there, you have to make sure that you stay following these two guys.
Except for that bow, though, not really anything big in the escape.
No.
I know sometimes you can have a pretty loaded escape where you walk out of there with 3 different weapons and other pieces of progression, but not this time. And we do have Kohrek and thalane both look like they're going to skip the Aghanim ledge check in the Lumberjack and head straight to the Lost Woods.
So fairy on the tree pole there. Interesting.
Yeah, that could come into play later, depending how mean the seed wants to be with the various mails that it gives out and the heart container count.
Alrighty, Kakariko, a loaded location, hopefully, for our runners today. We got a lot of chests to check here, so we'll see what we find.
Kakariko usually going to set the tone for everything else that's to follow in the seed. Pretty rare you coming out of here with really nothing to point you in any direction. Well, so far in Blind's Hut, just a bunch of money and a few bombs to refill their count. And in the back of Blind's Hut, we've got more money. So they're not going to be cash starved. In fact, they've got pretty much all the cash they need to take them through almost all of the things they need to do in the entire game now. Here, Kohrek going into the Kakariko well, finding some more bombs to refill the count. And a heart container in the back. Always nice when you find some of these 3 bomb drops as you go through Kakariko to keep you filled up. That's always a nice feeling. And we've got the lamp as the one and only item from these 10 chests they've opened so far. Lamp means no more dark rooms. Doesn't necessarily open anything up just yet, but certainly a nice item to have very early. And even more money here in the chicken hut. So these runners both have 900 plus rupees as they start off this seed. No money problems today.
I think they're good, yeah.
Nothing from Sick Kid either, so we're one chest from leaving Kakariko with not too much to speak of. But that's the mirror, and that's a pretty big item to find, so Doesn't again, nothing really open to them yet, but you can kind of see the things they'll be doing shortly, I think, if the expected items come in the next piece of this as they grab here in the southwest the library race game and then head to the South Shore. Oh, we've got a lift upgrade in the library. That's very interesting.
Yeah, I was just thinking with this item set so far that we might be seeing a lift upgrade. However, stuck on the library bookshelf there, that's not quite where I was thinking it might be.
Two schools of thought on that. Number one, okay, you can't get to the lift upgrade. That's bad. On the second hint, you're going to need to get that lift upgrade at some point. So we know the boots are coming. So as a runner, not the worst thing to find, as long as the location of those boots are not going to be super late. If those are the if that's the power glove there by logic, then I think we'll see an early boots. But if that's the Titan's mitts, it might still be a while before the runners can even get to it. And we do see the lead kind of change hands here as Thalane checked the race game before doing it while Kohrek jumped and did it blind. It looks like Kohrek's going to set up a fake flipper here to turn in his mushroom. This is a very nice strategy you don't see all the time. It's a faster way, if you do it perfectly, to get up here to turn in that mushroom. Meanwhile, Thalane's going to do the more standard full South Dam mini Moldorm area.
Just a bomb upgrade there, so not going to grab that.
If Kohrek wants, after seeing this, he can hard reset. Looks like he is going to hard reset there to preserve his mushroom in case he does want to do a fake powder later. Always a little tricky to hit those mini Moltorms with the bow when you're shooting from the side, but he gets it. Picks up a red boomerang, a piece of heart, a big bomb bag with a single arrow and 20 rupees. So we're still kind of the seed is doling out items at a pretty slow rate besides those rupees. With as few items as they've turned up so far, no surprise at all to see Thalane going over to Ice Rod Cave. It does not feel like a spot you really want to be leaving without any real progression in your hands just yet.
And even though we've got the bow and the lamp making Eastern Palace fully in logic, it is a pendant and not even the green one at that. So I think our runners are a little bit hesitant to dive into that dungeon immediately.
We have a super interesting route here from Kohrek. He's going west from the dam to check Agina. This is something runners will do. Ooh, and the flute and Ice Rod Cave. So Thalane, that check pays off very nicely. Picking up the flute, that does unlock, in addition to Eastern Palace, like you said, they can full clear. That does unlock a lot because they can get up to Hera and do Death Mountain. Kohrek, this could pay off a lot too here. If this is a hard location to get to, I think if he knew that the flute was over at Ice Rod Cave, he would know that this is not going to really benefit him too much, because with the flute, this is so much faster of a check than just straight walking. But he picks up his heart container, and it's another place he can check off his list. That's more of a move you'll see players make when Desert Palace is a pendant, and they don't know when their first trip over to Desert Palace is going to be. But it's not... It definitely a safe, conservative route, I'd say, from Kohrek. Not any kind of mistake or anything like that. Thalane activating his bird. We'll see if he puts that to use by going over to Sahasrahla and Eastern, or taking a trip up Death Mountain first. Actually, saving quitting. He may be thinking he's going to turn in the mushroom also, and that save and quit is to make sure he can do the hard reset if needed as well.
Yeah, you're right on there. That's exactly what he's doing. So he is also going to be disappointed by the big 20 that will be inside the witch's hut there.
But in the way that he's routed this compared to Kohrek, he's saving time in doing the same checks because that flute lets him get here so much faster than Kohrek's fake flipper. And in addition, if he ever does go and check Agina, he'll be able to do that a little faster than Kohrek was able to also. So just little time saves he's putting in just by happenstance, choosing the correct route early on. Kohrek getting a little bullied by that crab there as he tried to throw a bomb to Ice Rod Cave, but he's going to get his flute. Meanwhile, thalane is saving the old man up on Death Mountain.
I'm kind of hoping that we find a weapon at some point soon, because we won't be able to beat Moldorm at this point.
Yeah, thalane's got a decision after he turns in the old man here. Does he flute and go to Sahasrahla Eastern or risk climbing up to Hera? Never mind, he has no decision to make at all now. He's got a sword. He'll be completing the trip up to Hera, and he'll be able to full clear it. Only 2 hearts, so he's got to be a little careful with this RNG he's getting from these cabbages falling from the sky. Looks like he's through fine. Not the worst death in the world. The starting spot is right there, but a death anywhere in the old world never feels particularly good.
Oh no. So with his flute activated, I imagine that Kohrek is probably going to follow suit. The only other play being over to Eastern, so that might be a spot for divergence, but we'll see.
Yeah, looks like Kohrek is going to head to Eastern and Sahasrahla. This is definitely not a bad play. There's 6 items over here they can grab. With that early bow, some players will take that as a sign. Hey, hey, go to Eastern, especially with that early lantern. Eastern's looking pretty attractive, even though it is a pendant. It's not the longest dungeon in the world. He's gonna check Sahasrahla first. Be curious to know if in his head there's any items that could be here at Sahasrahla that are gonna keep him out of Eastern Palace for the time being. Does have that mirror. As thalane finds a small key, he's gonna have to go to the basement. And the hook shot. Oh, the hook shot is a big deal to get before going up Death Mountain. So this has become very interesting now. And indeed, that does look like an item that's going to dissuade him from going into Eastern Palace. He's going to go up the mountain and join thalane, getting his sword from the old man first.
Yeah, just opening up 8 more item locations there makes the Death Mountain play much more worthwhile.
The other part about Eastern Palace is with an early mirror, unless a piece of your Dark World access is in Eastern, you would very much like to check Eastern when you are completing pod, just because you're in the same area. So that it probably doesn't take much to push Kohrek away from Eastern at that point, and certainly an item that opens as much as the hookshot does is gonna get the trick done. Thalane needs to be a little careful getting through this room with his 1 heart, but he's got that completed. He's going to have to pick up the magic first, because he didn't pick up any magic from the uncle. And then he'll probably be death warping out of here. Even though he has the mirror, he wants to get a couple hearts back. Never mind, he's just going to go up with 1 heart. So Kohrek's going to do East Death Mountain first, probably thinking, I don't have a weapon to complete Hera yet, and he's... Or, never mind, he got the sword. This is actually interesting, doing East Death Mountain first. There are definitely items in Hera that can speed up other East Death Mountain checks that you can do. If there happen to be... I guess it's actually probably not a bad play. Knowing that 1 lift upgrade cannot be up here probably takes care of any of that doubt. So Kohrek is totally fine doing this. He's not going to really... No matter what he finds here, it's not going to be a problem. And we do have the red cane. Thalane's setting up a dangerous bomb jump, but he's got it no problem. While Kohrek checking these 5 more items, finding the flippers and the boots. Pretty good so far.
Yeah.
And just some additional cash, as if they needed more cash. So that's a nice find for Kohrek. Boots don't help tremendously here in Hera, but the earlier you find the boots, it's never a bad thing. So nice little pickup for him doing East Death Mountain first.
And back down in Kakariko, that will give us our first lift upgrade as well.
Yeah, I'm sure that's going to be a priority after completing Hera. Meanwhile, we got Thalane doing some almost NMG strats. I guess if he had the boots, this would be more like NMG, fighting Moldhorn with the fighter sword. And this last phase is always a little scary. But he gets it done very nicely there. Good fight from him. So without that hook shot just yet, Delane's gonna have to flute. I'm sure he's headed to Sahasrahla next, and might be regretting a little bit his ordering, but again, he'll be able to get right back up the mountain, check those things over on East Death Mountain.
I guess the flippers open up a couple more locations. I was just going to say we're running a little low on potential locations for our items for Dark World access, but we should be able to find them in the Zora spots, Waterfall Cave and whatnot.
You're right, still 2 items short, and we have 1 Boots location open and a couple of the flipper checks open. Not to mention Eastern Palace, which could end up being required anyway. As much as I think the hookshot's going to push both of these players away from doing it just yet, we should probably see them, if they run out of locations, no problem jump back in there and finishing it up. And especially with the boots, makes it really that much quicker.
Yeah.
And Thalane's actually going to get it done first, so he's not going to take that hookshot and go to East Death Mountain. He's going to say, I probably have to do Eastern anyway, unless all of the remaining pieces for Dark World access are up there. We know that one of the pieces is in the boots, which will lead him to his first glove upgrade. But there's a decent chance that you're going to have to go in here and find one of those other 2 pieces. So this could very well work out. It may be what Kohrek has to end up doing eventually as well.
So Kohrek's enjoying his little coffee break there. I find that this waiting in the, as much as people don't like to do Hera basement, it does give you a chance to kind of think about what you've got and what your next moves might be. So, you know, as much as it's annoying to waste 45 seconds just kind of hanging out there, it gives you a little bit of time to plan ahead.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And those moments, especially once you've got the boots, come few and far between for the rest of the seed. So always good to have them just a couple seconds to clear your head, say, if I find this, I think I'll do this next. If I don't find this, maybe we should go here. I know that it's when you have the boots and you're dashing around a lot of screens, you don't have really much time to look at your tracker, figure out where you really need to go. Oh, Kohrek stepping right in the hole there, trying to do a fast beetle room. You'll have to climb those stairs and try again, although the beetles will stay dead. The other part about doing the coffee break down there in the basement of Hera is when it's forced, when you have to go down there for the big key, it feels much better than if you have to make a decision to go do it. So I'm sure both those runners were happy to see that they had to do the basement no matter what.
Yeah, good point.
Thalane picks up a Master Sword out of the big chest in Eastern. There's 1 item left. He is not going to risk it. He's going to go to the vanilla big key location and check that. That Master Sword does put Aghanim into play. If we're able to find the Moon Pearl, that might look like an attractive option, given the fact that we've got the hookshot and a lift upgrade. And the flippers, for that matter, once they get that mountain. And at this point, unless the flipper locations or bonk rocks are holding 2... Ooh, there's a tough fall against Moldhorn from Kohrek because he was kind of stuck on that center hole there, and in his haste to get away, put himself right in the way of Moldhorn. You know, with 2 items still at large for Dark World, Aghanim possibilities are looming large. For us, the runners, I'm sure, both of them. Oh, another fall for Kohrek. Just getting bodied by Moldorm here, unfortunately. This fighter sword strategy sometimes can push you to do it a little bit differently than you might normally be used to in Randomizer. This is typically a boss you fight much more well-equipped than this. I think that might be something that we're seeing. Those north-south dashes in particular are very dangerous against Moldorm because the window for him to hit you is much larger than if you're doing side-to-side dashes. And Kohrek getting hit there, taking a death against Moldorm. There's no way that feels good. A death to Moldorm. After a couple falls, he's just going to come back later.
And that's as tough as that is to take a death there, that's a totally fine strategy just to opt out there. You've got both items in the dungeon already. You can finish that one off when you head up to Ganon's tower even. It can be your last crystal.
Yeah, absolutely. There's no reason to really go back through there now. You can grab it later. You will almost guarantee you'll be better equipped at that point to just handle them very quickly. Just as one of those unfortunate, he kept sticking with the north-south dashes, and those can be very dangerous for that exact reason. It's very tough for Moldorm to hit you when you're dashing side to side, but when you start dashing straight up or straight down, it becomes much more dangerous. Thalane finishing off Armos Knights, even though we found the 3rd item there in the vanilla big key chest. Ooh, and Kohrek has got his other lift upgrade on the Zora ledge, so now we know where the Titan's mitts are, but still no Moon Pearl. And Zora is not holding it either, so...
Ooh, I'd be really interested to see if we get some Super Bunny strats here to pick up the Moon Pearl.
Yeah, that's one location that is very trolly, but very much in logic once they have both items and the glove, and the flute, which they do. Could definitely be headed to the Misery Mire area to check out Checkerboard Cave, where once in every 200 seeds or so, it feels like the Moon Pearl's hiding. But they will also have access to both Bonk Rock Spots locations as well. I'd be surprised if Kohrek does not run up there first to check those before doing anything else. And there's Thalane picking up all of his footwear from Footwear Cave, as Kohrek is headed right over to Mire. He's going to be checking out Desert. He's going to be checking out Checkerboard Cave, if he can avoid this Murderdactyl on the way. No way to fight him off in bunny form. We do not get a map check, and we did not get a look at the Misery Mire medallion either. That'll have to wait.
So Kohrek should be able to fill clear Desert Palace here. He doesn't have the crystals, so, why not?
And there is our Dark World access sitting on the torch here in Desert, picking up the Moon Pearl. He'll, I'm sure, still finish off this dungeon while he's here. Now, the only thing left is neither runner has had the boot spots checked, so we don't know if they will check the Lumberjack ledge while they're checking these boot spots, but there could still be an item up at Lumberjack, as that is in sequence now as well with these items. We might be getting the check in a minute here from Thalane as he heads up to check the boot spots.
Finds a mail upgrade there.
We are going to get the lumberjack check, so this is becoming more of a standard play, I think, for most runners, is checking this once they have the boots. There's our map check there. We've got green pendant thieves, blue pendant at pod, and 5 and 6 are at Turtle Rock and Ice. So both bow dungeons being pendants in this seed. Very interesting.
Yeah.
Here we have Kohrek in the mire shed, checking this one while he's in the area with his moon pearl. Nothing of value in there. When is there ever? Thalane doing things just a little bit out of order, unbeknownst to him. He did the boot spot checks before picking up this glove and before going towards Zora, so he's going to have to kind of make a second trip up to North Hyrule to get the King's Tomb, but not a terrible divergence he'll have to make.
There's the book in the checkerboard cave there. And while we were kind of drawn in by Kohrek's map check of the Dark World there, Thalane noticed the cape hanging out on the lumberjack ledge. So if Bumper Cave is holding something, then that cape's going to come into play. Otherwise, probably not necessary.
There are a couple things logically that it could lock beyond that, but given the fact that both these players have at least the one bottle so far, I don't think there's anything. Ooh, getting the hammer from Hobo. Did Kohrek skip the Hobo check when he did the other flipper locations?
I think he might have, yeah.
Hard to say if that's a calculated gamble. Some players do skip it. It does take a while to swim up here, and he might route that in. With the mirror, there's other ways to route in Hobo once you're in the Dark World and moving about the overworld, so it's not necessarily a given that he's not going to check it, but that's very interesting. Big item to find there. So the other mitts here are not even necessarily logically Dark World access. Yeah, I guess actually, no, they had to be because where the Moon Pearl was. But they're going to be very equipped to move about the entire world very shortly, both of them. Or at least the lane's going to be. And Kohrek knocking down his Dark Death Mountain checks here will be interesting the next time he's in the area where Hobo is, even if it's in the Dark Overworld, if he just does a quick jump in the water mirror to check that spot.
Yeah, I think that's going to be what he's thinking to when he's going to get that check in is when he's in the Dark World, yeah.
We see the medallion for Turtle Rock as Bombos. Kohrek plays some of the more demanding, wackier modes that Rando has to offer, so he is pretty accustomed to some unorthodox routing based on different items, for example, an entrance randomizer and things like that. So he very well, and speaking of Bombos medallion, he finds it here in Hookshot Cave. He very well may be just putting off, knowing he's got the mirror, knowing he can grab that whenever he's in the area in the Dark World. And hopefully he does, because that is very much a required item.
Yeah, and usually you get locked behind the hammer pretty quickly. But this seed, given that we've got a lot of other items that'll give our runners like progression, it might be a little bit of a while before he gets over there again.
Ooh, and Kohrek finding out that on the Ether Tablet is the Ice Rod, which we know is certainly required. Without that Master Sword out of Eastern, he can't just grab it just yet. But chances are he'll run into another sword before he needs that.
That's a nice piece of knowledge, because it's Thalane might not head up there for a while to check that tablet.
Certainly puts your mind at ease when you find it too, that early.
Yeah.
So we got the lane in possession of those mitts, making the same play over here to the mire area. He's going to find his Moon Pearl in Desert. Meanwhile, Kohrek's gone to Skulls. If I'm not mistaken, did Kohrek finish off Desert Palace, or is he going to come back for that? He may be thinking, I can come back for that when I'm doing Misery Mire later.
Yeah, I don't think
he actually fought Lanmo.
No.
So again, either Kohrek is skipping these things to try and save some time for now, or he knows with that mirror he's got easier ways to route these things in later. He doesn't need to do them right now. Saves a little bit of time. Very, very good advanced knowledge of what he can and cannot do faster with the items he has.
It looks like Skull Woods was kind of a bust. Didn't really see anything exciting here. I think both items are in the back part where Mothula is hanging out.
Yeah, that early Skull Woods play sometimes feels like a lot of runners will... Oh, we're going to get a look at this cape ledge here, so let's see if the cape in Lumberjack is going to be needed for anything today. It's just more money, and we know we don't need any more of that. Kohrek's going to use this opportunity to check those boot spots, so he's going to see that cape and know that he already knows it's not going to be required. Anyway, to complete the thought there, that early Skull Woods play, sometimes runners will treat it as just part of the dark overworld, not so much a dungeon that they're diving without the correct items. And other runners will avoid it entirely until they have the fire rod, so we've seen what Kohrek will do. I'm sure thalane will be in the area pretty shortly. We'll see what he opts to do. The other thing to keep in mind is about that hammer. Let's see how Kohrek treats Thieves Town, as it is just a pendant, green pendant, but we'll see. We'll see how he treats that once he's in Village of Outcasts. We got some NMG strats here against Lanmo. Now he's switched to the Master Sword Slash. It's probably a little faster once that first cycle gets away from you with the regular arrows. It's never very fun. We're going to get our Graveyard Ledge and King's Tomb check. We already saw King's Tomb from Thalane side. We'll see Graveyard Ledge here from Kohrek. Thalane continues to try and get these worms down here. There he goes. Got them both. And nothing at Graveyard Ledge either, so... Players coming up empty on their checks here.
So it looks like Kohrek might head over to Catfish after this Pyramid Ledge, and then maybe get that hobo check-in after that.
Yeah, he definitely can circle the world here. He doesn't know he can without that hammer. It might actually dissuade him from going beyond Catfish, since he doesn't have the hammer. But at the same time, he may be thinking he better, because with no hammer, he can't get over to East Dark World anyway. He's going to go back west, so he's going to save East Dark World for now. Despite having those flippers, he says Village of Outcasts, Thieves, South Dark World, that's where he wants to be.
So Thalane going to pick up his book here. He's already got that Master Sword that he picked up in Eastern Palace, so tablets, he'll be able to actually get the items off of them. And we know that the Ice Rod is hanging out on the Ether tablets, so that's nice for him. Though he doesn't have that knowledge yet.
Yeah, hard to imagine that he will not check that while he's up there doing his Dark Death Mountain checks, but be curious to see when Thalane gets to that, given that he also has pretty much the entirety of the Dark World open to him at this point. Kohrek has decided, at least for now, to dip the front of Thieves Town. Again, with no hammer, we'll see how far back he wants to go. Most runners have a number in their head when they go to Pendant Thieves. How many items they get up front will determine how far they're going to go. Kohrek has now found one of those items. Green Pendant Thieves can maybe throw a little bit more calculations into the mix. So once he opens the fourth chest, we'll see what Kohrek decides. Looks like Thalane's going to start his next Dark World trip at Hype Cave. Or, as it is so often these days, not very Hype Cave. Ooh, Kohrek finds the fire rod there in the 4th chest. That is enough for him to say, I'll come back later if I need to.
Yeah.
Very nice item to find there.
Thalane expressing displeasure with how that hype cave went, leaving a bomb behind.
Predictably unhype cave today. Thalane with all the items to complete Swamp Palace as he runs by here, checking Bombo's tablet. Will be interesting to see if he decides on the early-ish Swamp Palace play.
Yeah, we got all the pieces for that, so I don't know, why not?
It feels like, while most people kind of dread going into Swamp Palace, if you can get in there early-ish, it feels like you can make fewer mistakes in that dungeon the earlier you go in, so not be surprised if he heads in there.
Yeah.
As Kohrek's going to clean up some of the Southwest Dark World. He did the dig game, he got a shield upgrade out of it, now he's got the frog. He's going to return the frog and do probably the entirety of this blacksmith route all the way through to Hype Cave. And actually, Thalane, at least for now, staying out of Swamp. Going to finish off some of this overworld here. Also, as chat is pointing out, we are actually already in no mode.
Yeah, that's true.
We have the Fire Rod and Thieves, the Hammer at Hobo. Kohrek picked up Bombos, which I'm forgetting for the moment where Bombos was. And Thalane has his Master Sword from Eastern, so we have everything that we need. I guess it's technically not no mode if I can't remember where the item was, huh?
Yeah, right.
I think Kohrek found it on his Dark Death Mountain trip, so probably... Oh yeah, okay, Chad is confirming an Hookshot Cave, so that's someplace that'll be very easy for Thalane to find. The big lingering question now is how fast Kohrek ends up going to the Hobo. I think that's really going to set him on the right trail. He'll only really need that and a sword for his go mode.
I wonder if at the end of his little South Dark World adventure here, he might think to mirror over to Hobo and take a peek.
I think Kohrek actually just lost his purple chest as he was headed down this direction.
Ooh, yeah.
Can be a little finicky trying to get that to follow you after moving around a little bit, but he's going to check Bombos and kind of continue without it. We know, I mean, unless it's a sword, we know it's not really going to hurt him losing that, but I'm sure at the back of his mind, for a while, he's going to be thinking about it. As Kohrek goes and gets his bad news from Hype Cave, Thalane going to be doing a fake powder maneuver here. Draining his magic, using the Cane of Samaria, and then switching to the mushroom to activate the fake powder glitch. And he gets a sword out of it. Very interesting. Thalane now on Tempered Sword. We know where 2 of the swords that Kohrek is going to need for his go mode.
Yikes, yeah. When is he going to get to either of those locations? If he finds, picking up the hammer like he possibly will be doing shortly, when is he going to make a check into Eastern Palace? And when is he going to think to fake powder?
Yeah, gotta admit, those are 2 kind of out-of-the-way locations for a sword to be if he hits, go mode minus a sword at some point in the near future, and it looks like he is. very smartly headed up this direction. If he's remembered Hobo, he'll be able to mirror and check that as he runs past. There we see the purple chest reward from thalane, just 50 bucks. And here is that Hobo check. Kohrek knows his way around the overworld. Now, this means Kohrek is really just missing a sword. At this point, he knows where everything else is. Which means I doubt very much he'll be going into Eastern, and he may not think it's worth the time to go back and do the fake powder now that he actually has a hammer. This is also very interesting that Kohrek could potentially hit go mode with no dungeons completed just yet.
Yeah.
Not something you see every day. This is a very interesting scenario for Kohrek. He knows that he is in almost go mode. All he's missing is a sword. There's a temptation to just start diving dungeons and you'll find your sword on your way. Some runners will even take it to the next level and say, I'll bet there's a sword in GT. I'm just going to go mode everything until I get to GT. Luckily, he knows he needs a sword before he goes to GT because he needs the ice rod. But it'll be very interesting to see what he's going to end up doing here. Knowing he's just really missing a sword and there's 3 of them out there in the world.
Picking up a bottle of blue goo here. Swapping out the green goo that they originally found in the bottle.
Blue goo is a nice call there, especially considering you're that close to go mode. You are probably likely to be finishing this Master Sword and silverless. So pick up the blue goo while you're in the area. Not a bad play in this seed, especially. thalane about to pick up his fire rod. We'll see what he does because that fire rod is going to put him just a couple items short of go mode. Although he doesn't know where the other items are awaiting him on Dark Death Mountain. He's going to continue. Meanwhile, Kohrek mirroring away from Catfish, and he's got his first real tough decisions to make. Looks like he's headed back over to the Mire area and Desert. Probably going to finish both of these dungeons out entirely. Oh, he forgot to check. Actually, now he knows he's actually just a sword short, because when he was here originally, he did not check that Bombos requirement.
It's going to be a tricky Misery Mire, especially the Vitreous fight is what I'm thinking of. Fighter's Sword is never fun to be going into that fight with.
I'm sure that was on his mind when he picked up the blue potion as well. This is not a very forgiving dungeon, particularly a very forgiving boss fight. They do, luckily, you know, for as fast as they've gotten really all of their items, they do have a good number of hearts as well, so that may help both of them going forward. So one of the worst things for Kohrek, and he doesn't even know it, is if thalane runs into another sword doing these checks. If there's a sword, you know, 2 of those swords are in kind of out of the way locations, and if another one is in out of the way location, Kohrek might be in a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
Or even if there's just another sword in Turtle Rock, say, he's still in a lot of trouble because those other 2 that thalane have found are not exactly in any route that I see him taking, at least for a while.
Looks like Blind might be holding the last item in the dungeon here.
Yeah, effectively 2 items on Blind with the green pendant as well, so very easy to check that. And Kohrek a little lamp happy there. Shot his lamp a couple extra times in that room. He's going to have to grab the refill in this one and go back and open up that northern chest. Certainly doesn't want to have to use his blue goo just to get through this room, so he will not be doing that. Kohrek picks up the big key, and it looks like his intention is to just go mode the rest of Meyer. He's going straight to Vitreous.
So we've got a really interesting race here. So we've got Kohrek basically go-moding everything now, assuming that he's going to pick up a sword along the way. Thalane missing a couple of pieces, but we know where everything is, so as soon as he gets to those, he'll be in much better shape, given that he's already got the tempered sword.
Yeah, basically, Thalane's next trip, or Thalane's trip up Dark Death Mountain is going to give him his go mode. Meanwhile, Kohrek is going to have to run into a sword while he is in quasi-go mode here and treating some of these dungeons like it is go mode. It'll be very interesting to see the strategy that he employs here on Vitreous. Looks like he's going to be fake powdering the anti-fairy right here to get a little bit of a health refill. Don't see this very often, but coming in here with only 7.5 hearts and no real weapon. Very nice awareness, and very nicely done too to fake powder in a spot you don't usually fake powder. Gonna be starting Vitreous off with some bombs. This is a safe strat. Get some damage on all these eyeballs, and the rest of the fight becomes a little bit easier. This is clearly not the first time Kohrek has had to do this. He's doing a great job with a fight that is not very easy to pull off.
Using all kinds of strats here, moving into spin slashes here as well.
Really, really expertly done. To get that done as quickly as he got it done, not very many runners who could do it much better than that.
Yeah, that was top notch. So there we go, 52 minutes in. That is Kohrek's first crystal.
He's now going to head over, finish off Desert Palace. That's why he left Lanmo when he was here earlier. He knew he would be back. Thalane, meanwhile, going to show us the Fire Rod locked portion of Skullwoods that Kohrek could not when he was here earlier. At this point, the worst thing for Thalane is if he delays that Dark Death Mountain dip in exchange for doing something like Ice Palace, which would make a lot of sense in his position, but that would mean he's full clearing Ice Palace, or Swamp Palace for that matter. Yeah. If he does anything like that before going up Dark Death Mountain, it's giving Kohrek some time to find that missing sword, or complete all the other dungeons that he is going to probably continue to go mode, since he's already go moded one. And then if he runs into a sword later, things could get very interesting. Very, very hard to call. It's really kind of going to come down to Thalane's route. If he does Dark Death Mountain sooner rather than later, then it's just a matter of, is there a sword in Kohrek's way? And if there's not much he can do about it.
So Kohrek down Landmolus there with the Fire Rod, and Thalane is going to be taking down Mothula as well right here. Looks like Kohrek is going for Skullwoods next here.
Makes a lot of sense. He knows that, first of all, Mothula has, or very likely to have an item based on what he found earlier in the dungeon. Might be a sword. Get it out of the way earlier. And of course he needs to do it because it's a crystal anyway. Thalane is staying in the Dark World here, out of Skullwoods. I guess he's probably going to do a wrap around the North Dark World here, so that's some more checks he's getting out of the way before doing Dark Death Mountain.
Mm-hmm.
Kohrek just blasting through that mine room with the Fire Rod, which is interesting given that he has Master Sword, or given that he has Fighter Sword. Typically you want to save as much magic to damage Mothula as you can. He's probably very comfortable, given the level of his boss fight so far. I'm sure he's very comfortable fighting Mothula with any loadout, as long as he's got this many hearts. Looks like he's going to go with the hammer strats, with 2 very early hits already. Looking pretty masterful with his usage here.
Yeah, meanwhile, we've got Thalane doing the Dark Death Mountain check, it looks like here.
It looks like he's going to hit his go mode very shortly. As long as he doesn't continue to jump off cliffs like that. And if you liked Kohrek's Vitreous fight, then his Mothula fight was, again, top-notch with that hammer usage. Extremely impressive boss fights from Kohrek's side.
Yeah, hitting Mothula's hitbox with the very weak hitbox of the hammer, fantastic.
So as long as, the only drama here is really, does Thalane remember to go check the Ether Tablet? If he does, he'll be in go mode when he gets there. If he doesn't, then things get weird. Meanwhile, Kohrek headed into Swamp Palace. Probably not checking too many chests here, although there are some chests that it makes a lot of sense to check in here when you are missing just a sword. A couple of them are right in the way. Certainly not going to be doing left side or anything like that. Thalane confirms Bombos at T-Rock. He will now jump into Hookshot Cave, get his Bombos medallion, and then he will just be missing the location of that Ice Rod, which we know is just a couple screens away.
Yeah, and seeing as he can route that check-in with Spike Cave as well, he's probably going to make sure to do both of those before leaving Death Mountain.
And Thalane is headed over to Turtle Rock before going over to the Ether Tablet. This is a potential disaster for Thalane. It makes some sense. He's only 1 item short, and it could be right in here, in which case it's great. Now, maybe he might just be opening it and then headed over there, but probably not. I think he's intending to go in here and find Ice Rod inside Turtle Rock.
You know, I can't Can't say that I blame him here. Ice Rod in Turtle Rock knocked me out of this tournament, so I can see the play, but yikes.
Yeah, it's not going to feel good, especially because once he realizes it's not here, his first check is likely going to be the Ether Tablet. And it will lose him some time. I guess not go-moding this dungeon is not the worst thing. He will have to double-dip it, but it's really only a couple minutes of double-dipping. There's the powder, which he sequence broke around to get his other sword, so sitting here in Turtle Rock, not going to do Kohrek any good. So this is it's a time loss for sure for Thalane, but the longer that Kohrek goes without finding another sword, it may not matter, because I imagine his first check after getting out of here is probably going to be that Ether Tablet, and then he's just going to get to go mode all of these dungeons that Kohrek is now entering and not necessarily go moding. Just such a weird situation for both of these runners. Really intriguing how it's played out.
Yeah.
And on the other side, there's a lot of drama. If Thalane finds a sword in here, then Kohrek is in huge trouble.
Yeah.
Kohrek would really like not have a sword in here, because the other two that he's going to need to find that ice rod, it would be very unlikely he's not going to dive Turtle Rock for that sword until nothing else is left. And I don't know once it comes down to that. If you're still missing a sword and you know that Ice Rod needs a sword, are you going to go into Turtle Rock looking for that sword or do other things? It's really... these are all decisions that Kohrek is hoping to not have to make, let's say. There are definitely situations you get into in this game when you are just missing a sword for go mode, but typically you can bank on a sword being in GT in those situations, or at least as your plan B. In this instance, Kohrek knows he can't get into GT without that extra sword, so it'll be interesting when he starts maybe diverging from his normal go mode -1 sword tendencies.
Yeah, we're seeing him make like little checks here and there, like he did the south room in Swamp here. One that if you're in full go mode, you definitely wouldn't check out.
Kohrek, a big fan of these fighter sword strats on all these bosses, really giving us the full showcase today as he does fighter sword Argus, yet another miserable fighter sword boss fight that he is performing masterfully as usual. So again, just to kind of recap where we're at here, Thalane has found 2 swords that we strongly believe are not going to be in Kohrek's way. One at the Magic Bat, as Kohrek gets a berry in a bottle from Argus. One at the Magic Bat and one in Eastern Palace. Kohrek is just a sword short of his go mode since he knows the Ice Rod is sitting on the Ether Tablet. Thalane is diving Turtle Rock with no Ice Rod looking for it, but until Kohrek finds that sword, I don't know if Thalane is really in any danger. And it comes down to where that last sword can be. There are a lot of places that last sword can be, and for example, if it's GT, then Kohrek is in a ton of trouble. And probably at this point, statistically, the most likely place for that 4th sword is GT.
Yeah. So yeah, while we're seeing Kohrek knocking off dungeons left and right here, yeah, that sword issue is definitely going to come into play. He's going to hit a point where he's going to be a little bit stuck.
If he finds a sword in his way, he's in great shape because he's got so many dungeons knocked off, and Thalane is not going to gain any time go-moding these dungeons because Kohrek has already go-moded them. But if he does not find a sword in his way, I don't even know what he decides to do after he's got all the dungeons checked off his list. He could very well go up to Turtle Rock knowing that if he finds a sword in there, he can actually position his mirror spot in such a way that he can climb the mountain in the light world, get his ice rod, and then jump back down to his dark world portal and not have to go through the dungeon again. So he may very well be comfortable, if it comes to it, going into Turtle Rock without that sword upgrade, looking for one. But as Thalane is about to show us, there may not be a sword upgrade in here to find. And it does not look like there's a sword upgrade to find. Thalane gets the bad news, there's no ice rod either, but we'll see if he realizes that he's kind of left a spot up there. This is an awkward mirror spot for him. We could be in a very strange situation in a few seconds if he does not decide to go back up the mountain. And it looks like he, for his sake, is climbing back up there.
Yes, this means that Thalane is going to be in very, very good shape, assuming that Kohrek doesn't find that sword on his way.
And we did see Kohrek open the first chest here in ice. That does not take very long to open. There are a couple more, depending on what he gets out of the next chest he looks at. There could be a sword on Cold Stare. But other than that, not too much that's going to be able to save him just yet. Thalane gets the good/bad news that his ice rod was right there the whole time. He's now in go mode. He's actually running back over to Turtle Rock here to finish. Does not need to do that. He could always just do it when he's climbing back up this mountain, but he's probably excited to see the ice rod, wants to go put it to immediate use.
Yeah, definitely.
And actually, Kohrek looks like he is not going to go mode the entirety of ice. He's going to go check out some more chests looking for that sword. In his mindset, if the only sword he can find is going to be in here, there's no way he's coming back here. So looks like he's just going to commit to the full or full-ish clear. And he just needs a sword to save him. Really, the only thing at this point that saves Kohrek is running into a sword. And there's only one left out there, so his odds we know are not very good.
So far coming up with a whole lot of nothing in Ice Palace, but there are still items here to be found.
So after he completes Ice Palace here, Kohrek will just have Turtle Rock and then Muldorm to finish off as far as crystals go. It'll be interesting. I'm sure he'll probably go straight up there. He may be a little worried at this point that he hasn't found one. That's why he's full clearing the rest of the chest in ice first. But very difficult decisions coming up for Kohrek. Or at least some very uncomfortable decisions, I'm sure, for him. And again, his tournament life is at stake here. One more loss, and he is out of this. He's out of the brackets. If I'm not mistaken, he has found all 3 items in here. No, he has not. It looks like. Oh, there's probably a small key on Cold Stare. So I think he has found all 3 items here. Which is bad news for him, because I think the next play he's making is straight to Turtle Rock.
So even though Thalane entered, already dipped Turtle Rock, you see how quickly you can get back to Trinex here. So not really a huge time loss on his part. Still kind of unfortunate, but making quick work of Trinex here.
And for the 4th or 5th time today, I'm going to say again, if anybody out there struggles with hammer strats on any of these bosses, just go watch this VOD, because Kohrek has been absolutely masterful at these low percentage strats. One gets his green rupee from Trinex. He's going to have to go finish off Ice Palace, Misery Mire, and Swamp Palace. But he doesn't need any items from any of those dungeons, so it should not be very long before he's climbing up to Ganon's Tower. Kohrek, meanwhile, is doing a climb of his own, but it's not going to result in any swords as far as we're aware. I think the only location we haven't seen up here is Spike Cave.
Yeah, this play, from Kohrek here makes sense. Turtle Rock is an item-heavy dungeon, so you're only looking for one more thing, and you can set up your mirror portal in such a way that he'd be able to get back to the dungeon fairly quickly. But man, there's nothing here for him, unfortunately.
And honestly, trying to ballpark the time this is going to take, Kohrek is still got a chance, even after he finishes this and doesn't find a sword. I don't think thalane will be climbing up to GT by then. There may be a chance for Kohrek to squeeze in a few extra location checks looking for a sword, and if he finds one, especially if it's in the light world, if he can keep that portal at Laser Bridge and do light world checks like Magic Bat, which is a light world check, he could still not really even have to run back through that much more of Turtle Rock when he comes up here for GT.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because go-moding these 3 dungeons for thalane is going to be quick, but it's still, I don't know, what, 10, 12 minutes or so?
I'm trying to remember the big key location in Mire. I do not think it was a very early big key. I think it was the North Torch Room, because
Yes.
Kohrek grabbed it and then immediately went to Vitreous. So, yeah, not super fast dungeons even when go-moding. Certainly, go-moding these dungeons for Kohrek was very quick, and go-moding these dungeons for thalane going to be very quick as well. So it's just going to be very interesting when Kohrek finishes Laser Bridge, what his next decisions are. If he decides that the only way he can win this is by checking light world locations and saving his portal, maybe Magic Bat rates pretty highly on the things that he wants to check. Or Eastern Palace, for that matter, both of which are in the light world. So there's still a chance for Kohrek, certainly, because he's just played so well in all these other dungeons he's been completing. And as far as we know, hasn't missed a sword there. I mean, that would be the bigger deal. If thalane had found a sword in one of these dungeons Kohrek had go-moded, then certainly Kohrek's never going to find that. But these swords are all locations Kohrek hasn't gone yet.
Alrighty, thalane heading down into the cold stair fight here.
Thalane has a little bit easier time with Cold Stare there than Kohrek did with his hammer strats. Very nicely done. That's another thing that may come into play. Even if Kohrek finds a sword, it's unlikely he will have a sword, certainly not a sword advantage. Certainly he'll be like at a sword disadvantage, probably through the rest of the game, unless there happens to be one sitting in GT when both players get there, and that means he probably wants to get into GT before thalane does. And boy, the longer this goes on, the faster that thalane continues to finish these dungeons. It's looking worse and worse for Kohrek.
Yeah.
However, in game 2, when Kohrek looked down and out, he was able to come back and force the tie, so maybe he's got more of that magic left in him.
Alrighty, Thalane setting up Swamp Palace here. Now he's not going to be checking any chests in here, so he'll be able to do it a little bit faster than Kohrek did. I guess the one thing that could even up the sword disadvantage would be if we find silvers in maybe Ganon's tower.
Yeah, definitely. And with, I mean, the odds are probably not great with all the chests we're ending up leaving behind in these dungeons.
Yeah.
But you never know. Sometimes the seed takes pity on these guys once they get to the end of it and says, you know, you've been through enough. Here are the silvers.
I can see them being in, like, Pendant Pod there, so... We'll see, though. We will see.
Yeah, we haven't seen any of Pod. We're not really seeing very much of Swamp. We left a couple items in Misery Mire. A lot of items out there. You know, whatever's going to potentially be left in GT. Kohrek is nearing the end of Turtle Rock here, and Thalane's still in Swamp and has to go to Mire, so there really is a window here for Kohrek to make something happen once he gets to the end of Laser Bridge. It just all depends on what he's thinking his next best play is.
And I wonder if picking up the powder here in Turtle Rock, he thinks about Magic Bat again.
Yeah, I guess the two choices are do everything you can in the light world to preserve your portal, or go to the highest density location you've got left, which is going to be Pod, although Pod is not very fast. Kohrek has shown an excellent level of knowledge with some of the more unorthodox strats, so it's really, I mean, it could be a little bit gut feeling when you get to this point. Where do you think that last sword's going to be? Hold on to your seats, because he's going to have to start making these calls. Kohrek getting a little trolled by this last chest here with the beetle and the lasers. Can't quite get to it. What he is hoping is going to be his sword, but it's not. Kohrek does look like he's putting the portal down here, so his thought may be, let's go check some light world areas. Very nice one cycle on phase 2 of Argus there for Thalane. Nicely done. He's only got Misery Mire, and then he'll be making the climb to GT. Kohrek is headed to Kakariko. This could be a Magic Bat check.
Oh my. Hammer is out here. Yeah, this is happening.
This is going to mean Kohrek's got a nice lead. The first check he's going to make is going to be Magic Bat. He's got his portal sitting up there on Death Mountain. That means he does not have to go all the way back through the dungeon. Now the question is just, Thalane's got to finish up Misery Mire. Is Tempered enough to catch him up with the lead that Kohrek has? Kohrek also has to go back and kill Moldorm, ironically, the one boss that's given him any trouble today. So there's a little bit of time there that Kohrek has to spend in Hera. This could be extraordinarily close. Again, between these two.
Yeah. Wow. Oh, that dead rock. How did it get him there?
Whenever you think you're safe from dead rocks, you're not. I think that's the only rule that Dead Rocks play by. Kohrek making the climb back up here. He's actually going to do Hera first. This is interesting, but totally fine. Do Hera, jump back into his portal, finish up Turtle Rock. Meanwhile, thalane, a couple rooms away from picking up his... Oh, he's got to come back over here anyway to pick up the Ice Rod, of course. I'm paying attention, I swear.
Yeah. I was thinking the exact same thing.
I'm getting ahead of myself. Kohrek is not. That's the important part.
So the next chest that thalane checks here is likely going to be his big key.
And he'll be finishing up this dungeon right behind Kohrek, finishing up Turtle Rock. That means thalane's got to make the climb to Ganon's Tower, and Kohrek's got to go kill Moldorm. And boy, this is just neck and neck again between these two.
Very nice cane dash there.
Kohrek throwing in one more Hammer Strats boss fight for all the other ones he's done. Again, doing this one so far perfectly. If Kohrek can stay in and even take this win, or even for it to be as close as it is right now, it's a testament to how well he has executed with some very low percentage strats against a lot of these bosses, which are very difficult to do.
Yeah.
Which is not to say that thalane's execution has been poor on the other side either. Thalane has gotten through all of these dungeons that he's done, all of his boss fights very cleanly as well, but for what Kohrek has had for many of them, very impressive. Not many runners could be doing this faster than him, with the exception, of course, of Moldorm, which is going to come into play when he has to go back up there just now. But everything else since then, Kohrek has been really, really clean.
That tempered sword making quick work of those eyeballs.
With thalane collecting that last crystal, you know what time it is, Sabo.
Sure do, Boyne. So we like to play a little game around here. Get the bot going here. So we have 22 chests in the basement of Ganon's Tower where the big key can be. So put your guesses in the chat, 1 to 22. If you are a subscriber to any of the Speed Gaming channels or have contributed 250 bits across the channels, you get a chance to be on our leaderboard. Boyne, where do you think this big key is going to be today?
I got a feeling we're going Rando Room. Classic Rando Room. We also have the very interesting possibility of Kohrek making it into Ganon's Tower first, although thalane started his Ganon's Tower climb before he did. I think that means we're still going off of thalane's chest count, since he was technically... I don't know the actual rules for this kind of situation.
How does this even work? I guess whoever is in GT first, we'll just kind of go with that count. So,
okay. If we're doing something wrong, hopefully an admin comes and stops us, but that's what we're going with.
Yeah.
This is extraordinarily tight, though. Kohrek is going to just step outside here, step back in his portal, be in Ganon's tower. Thalane is just a couple screens away from Ganon's tower. He does have a sword advantage, so it'll be interesting if that continues, or if we find a sword here in GT, or if we have some GT route divergence. But oh my goodness, these runners are getting the GT cutscene at exactly the same time, practically. Again, these runners are coming off of a 1-second tie in their previous matchup. This is technically game 3 of this series, and we could be seeing the same thing again 2 games in a row.
Unbelievable that it's come to this. All right, final chance for guesses, everybody.
Kohrek finds a key on the right side. He's gonna go to the right side. This is pretty standard for players who find a key. Thalane will be doing the exact same thing. Okay, chests 3, 4, 5, and 6 here. Kohrek opening up. Nothing so far, and nothing on the right side, so these runners are gonna grab a key and head left. One screen, all that separates these 2 runners here in Ganon's tower. Incredible.
Yeah.
Well, we'll not be picking up the Ether tablet today, so Bob gets to live. Alright, head into the Stalfos room for Kohrek. This will be chests 8, 9, 10, and 11, I believe.
Yep, that's where we are.
And there we have the big key in chest number 9 today. And both runners mirroring at exactly the same time for the climb. This is incredible.
Oh my god.
They are almost entirely synced up, headed upstairs in Ganon's tower. This is pretty incredible. Again, Thalane has a sword advantage. That comes more into play on the Ganon fight than it does in the Gauntlet itself. Certainly there are some time saves with Tempered Sword here in the Gauntlet, but most of the time save from having the sword upgrade will be on the Ganon fight. Thalane having a little bit of issues with the mimics here. Kohrek gets through a little cleaner. And then Kohrek gets a little low on arrows. He's having a problem here in mimics too. Both of these runners feeling it as we get to this late stage.
Quick shout out to Ravis10, who was the supporter who guessed the closest with the number 10. Didn't get a supporter guessing number 9, but it was chest 9 today.
Okay, we're going to the Gauntlet basically all synced up.
Thalane opting for some Fire Rod strats here.
Kohrek gets the 2-for-1, but Thalane takes a slight lead going into Gauntlet 3, gets a clean Gauntlet 3. Kohrek is also through. Some really high-level execution for both of these runners. This is a real treat to watch.
Yeah. Thalane taking the time to powder that bunny beam there.
Neither player with a lot of magic at this point. Thalane's going to opt to drink a green potion while Kohrek will slug it out with his Master Sword and Fire Rod and gets got a double shot there on one of the worms. That's a nice little save. Fortunately, it's going to take him a cycle longer now, and 2 cycles longer. He gets some bad RNG on that last worm, as Thalane's already through and headed upstairs. Kohrek actually had one more shot in his fire rod, but needs to save that magic for the cane strats in these next few rooms, so had to use the sword to finish off. So there's a little bit of that sword difference coming into play. Thalane is taking a couple rooms advantage as he goes upstairs. Not much left in GT here. Thalane having a little bit of a problem getting through this room, though, and Kohrek gets a full magic drop. Very nice for him to find there. He's going to be a little bit more reliant on... Well, they both have half magic, so nobody's really reliant on magic from here on out, I guess.
Yeah. I wonder if we'll see Kohrek check these last couple chests looking for that sword upgrade.
It does look like he's going to. No sword for him just yet. Thalane is headed to the Moldorm 2 fight, and actually with the problems Kohrek had on Moldorm earlier, this might be someplace Tempered comes into play too. This is a much easier fight with Tempered Sword than with Master Sword. Thalane is over the Moldorm gap. Kohrek still no sword. Headed into the Moldorm fight.
I think that Thalane's sword advantage might just carry him through here.
Yeah, definitely bought him, you know, they entered GT practically synced up. Kohrek a little bit ahead. Thalane is going to be entering the Aga 2 fight maybe 25-30 seconds ahead of Kohrek, so we did see that sword come into play, and there's another nice chunk of time to be saved on Ganon if everything goes well for Thalane. Thalane finishes up Aga as Kohrek enters. He'll be headed into Ganon. At this point, this is Thalane's race. Unless something goes wrong here, he's got enough of an advantage that Kohrek's execution, as good as it is, can't do anything about it.
Yeah.
All right, Thalane dropping in, starting his Ganon fight at 131.35. Gets the nice double spin there. He's going for the one cycle here in phase 1. He has got it onto phase 2. Looks like he's got the one cycle there as well. He's onto phase 3. Kohrek dropping in about 25 seconds behind. Here's where the sword advantage really shows through. Kohrek's got to do these sword spins, whereas Thalane only needs 12 swings of the sword to get through these phases. A lot of warps here for Thalane, but it's going to come down to this Silverless. If Thalane can execute it, he's going to take game 2 here. If not, we might see another crazy finish.
So Silvers were in the Dark World somewhere.
Oh, Thalane missing the torch glitch. He got the early Silverless hit in, but missed the torch glitch. This is not disastrous with half magic. It is disastrous if you don't have half magic. He might still be okay. It's going to cost him a little bit of time here, and if he gets low on magic, he might have to switch to the Lantern, which is going to eat into his magic even more.
And I don't know if Thalane has any potions.
He had a green potion coming into Ganon's tower, but used it right before the Lanmo 2 fight. And Thalane may be a little rattled. He's missing some of these spins, and his lamps are way off sync. He does get a good early hit there to get 2 from that cycle. And makes another very nice hit there. Meanwhile, Kohrek 1 hit away from entering phase 4 himself. This is so close, as long as Thalane doesn't run out of magic here. And Thalane getting the last hit with just a couple shots of that fire rod left. All he needs to do is walk through that door. had it all the way. And Thalane going through the door after a edge of your seat Ganon fight, edge of your seat Ganon, finishing with a time, official speed racing TV time of 1:33.54.
Wow.
Thalane will take this series 2-0 with a tie in there as well, so 2-0-1.
It looks like Thalane is ready to join us for a little chat, so let's bring him on in. Ooh, maybe not quite yet.
While we wait for Thalane to join us, we've got Kohrek finishing up his Master Sword Silverless fight, where obviously this is a much longer fight, whereas Thalane only needed 12 hits with the Tempered Sword. Kohrek's got to do a lot more than that. And he looks like he's handling it well. He did get the torch glitch. That would be, with Master Sword, disastrous, missing the torch glitch. So as he finishes up a very well-executed seed himself, with a very tough bit of execution.
And we are now joined by our winner, Thalane. GG's, man.
Hey, thanks.
GG on that one. That was a close one. It may not look like it from the final time here, but the sword difference in GT, you guys were synced up almost the entire way up the tower. Your Tempered Sword ended up making the difference.
Oh yeah, we already talked about that. We were like speculating that we probably entered the Ganon fight at almost the same time, I guess.
Yeah, you were about
close.
25 seconds ahead going into Ganon, I believe, and you were maybe 3 seconds behind entering the tower.
Alright, so I just kind of like reversed the situation from yesterday, I guess.
We thought we might have another one coming down to the wire on our hands.
Oh, that was not only you thinking that. I would like, during the Ganon fight, I was like, dude, I'm so behind. This is gonna be another tie, isn't it?
Yeah, you definitely dipped a couple more dungeons than Kohrek today. It was the sword difference that you managed to pick up the one sword in Eastern Palace there, which Kohrek didn't find. The one sword that you guys both did find was the Magic Bat one.
Yeah, I already heard. And speaking of Eastern Palace, like, I don't know what's going on with me, but this was like another mistrack on my end. Kind of the same what happened in game 1. Because I really thought Eastern Palace was the green pendant. Otherwise, I wouldn't have finished it.
Yeah, we noticed that early. You did find the third item in the vanilla big key chest and finished the dungeon anyway. So that's interesting that you did think it was the green pendant. That makes a lot more sense than going to grab that for the blue pendant or something like that. But in the end, having that sword, honestly, that much earlier, did make some of the difference. Kohrek was basically in go mode minus a sword at about the 40-minute mark and started basically just rattling off go modes of dungeons. He go moded Mire, he go moded most of Swamp. He actually full cleared Ice and then went into Turtle Rock looking for that sword to get the Ice Rod off of the Ether Tablet. And then after Turtle Rock, the first thing he did was the Magic Bat, which let him jump back in his portal. So it was just so tight and hard to call from the moment both of you got one item away from go mode. It was a little closer since you went into Turtle Rock without the Ice Rod looking for it and then immediately found it afterwards, but just really incredibly close from both of you. Incredible execution from both of you, and honestly, maybe that early Eastern Palace dive that you did thinking it was the green pendant might have maybe made somewhat of a difference having that early sword.
I mean, I might have gone into there anyway, but like not defeated Amos at that point. So, yeah, I don't know.
And meanwhile, while we've been chatting with you here, Kohrek finished up with a time of 1:36.41, and I think he's here in the chat with us, so let's bring him on in. Hey there, Kohrek. GG's, man. Tough loss, huh?
Yeah, I mean, it's fine. I had that very nice NMG style death, and then I tilted for, I don't know, about half the race from that point. Then I just started gambling hard. Almost got back, but I was so close, and I was actually planning on going and fake powdering before going up to Turtle Rock because it would be my first check after Laser Bridge regardless. It just happened that I got the powder anyway. But I just flew to 1 after Ice Palace and well, I guess we're here now.
Yeah, it was really so close and so different for both of you. There were so many items early. Thalane needed to go up to Dark Death Mountain to get his Bombos and see that his Ice Rod was on the Ether Tablet. You needed to stop by Hobo for the hammer and get a sword, and it was just so hard to tell which way it was going to go. You started go-moding dungeons left and right, just needing a sword, figuring you'll find one on the way, makes total sense. And after the Moldorm problems, your execution was just impeccable with some real low percentage boss fights. Your Vitreous boss fight, which was used basically bombs and regular arrows with your fighter sword, was not that much slower than most people can do a normal Vitreous fight. So you really threw out some excellent execution following the shenanigans that Moldorm pulled on you early. And that's how you kept it close. I mean, your top-notch execution was able to keep it close enough, despite the sword disadvantage, pretty much all the way up GT and even getting into GT. It was really a treat to watch it. You both should feel very, very good about how you played this one.
Yeah, there is no shame in losing to Thalane. He's a great player. He plays a lot of the extra modes that I have a lot of respect for. So I wish him the best in this tournament. I hope he goes far. I had a great time in the tournament. I had a lot of great opponents in the Swiss rounds. A lot of fun. So no regrets. Standard isn't my primary interest, so to make it this far is certainly a nice accomplishment.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, GG, man. And I also want to say at this point that Kohrek is a really good player, and I'm happy that I was able to beat him because I thought it was an uphill battle on my end, and yeah, GG's, man. There's nothing more I can say.
For anyone who's watched a lot of this tournament, and especially has watched a lot of this bracket, round 1, there are no slouches left in this tournament, and for you guys to get paired up here in round 1 is probably, certainly the top half of runners left. You two belong to that group, and whichever one of you was going home, it was going to be a loss for the rest of the tournament. So GG's to both of you. Playing 3 games here, obviously they're all close games, a tie in there just for good measure. But you guys put on a great show in all these games, and you should both walk away pretty proud of your performances. With that in mind, Thalane, you are the one moving on. Any thoughts going into the next round? It looks like you're going to be playing against McLagging, who defeated Alucard 2004 2-1. Any thoughts on your next round matchup?
Actually, no, because I think I haven't really seen much of McLagging yet. I know that Alucard is a strong player, and so beating him, that's going to be a tough one again. So I think I'm in a really tough spot in the anyway, but I try my best to move forward.
Yeah, certainly no free wins in this tournament.
Yeah, so I guess with that, any final thoughts from either of our runners here?
I just again want to thank everybody. I know Sabo, you commentated us twice in a row here.
Yep.
Definitely appreciate you showing up, and when I'm sure it was an excellent commentary. Glad to see you get added in the last minute. A lot of respect for you as well as a runner. So I'm sure it's a great watch back. And Thalane, best of luck through the rest of this. I think you have a good chance to get quite a few more wins here.
Yeah, thank you. I also want to give some shout-outs to the commentators, Sebo and Bwayne, and Yonk's wife for tracking and all of the SG stuff for, making this tournament and restreaming all these matches. And also shout-outs to the Mirror Bong in front of Skywoods.
I did see that. It's okay. There weren't too many mistakes made today. So thanks both of you for your kind words. Kohrek, thalane, you guys are awesome. It was a pleasure commentating. Sabo, pleasure commentating with you as well. And I'll give you the last word for this one.
Yeah, Blaine, I had a blast. This was an excellent race to be a part of. So yeah, thanks again to the runners. Thanks to Yoinker's wife for tracking. I hope we get to do this again sometime, Blaine. This was awesome. So with that said, we're going to wrap things up for now. So there's probably some more randomizer action going on one of the other channels. I don't have the schedule up. So just look around. I'm sure you'll find some more. And I guess we will see y'all next time.